Let's do it again. Let's do it
All
again.
right, come on.
What's up, y'all? I'm Dejon McCain.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Shakira 2 times, and this is Cancel Culture.
Man, this is also the first time we've had guests. Not one, but two guests.
2 guests. Now, before we get into today's topic, which Dijon is going to dive into, I just want to introduce our guests because we are blessed to have some very dope people in the building, or on the screen, I should say. First and foremost, we have my very best friend, Miss Jandelta Rayshawn Paylou, in the building. She is a Black woman in America. Enough said, but on top of that, she is born and raised in Minneapolis, where all this mayhem has been taking place. Not only that, but she works for the county where this mayhem is taking place. So she is triple invested in today's topic. So I thought she'd be perfect. Next, we have NWA. No, I'm just playing. We have
don't do them like that.
The talented, hilarious, outstanding artist and LA native, Mr. Queasy. I still don't know your government name, bro, and I've known you for a year. But we're just gonna keep it with Queasy. I'm so glad to have you here as well.
Hello. How y'all doing?
Glad for the guests. Look, Queasy is on the way right now. He's on a tour, y'all. That's why he's in the car. Look.
Okay.
But let's get into the
currently
topic.
making moves.
Let's get into the topic. It's super heavy. I love starting with positivity because, like, honestly, when I'm prepping for these topics, it'd be so heavy. So let's get into it, man. For those of you who don't know, if you don't know this, unless you're in a coma, you shouldn't have no excuse for not knowing what's going on in the world. Literally, we're approaching a year on May 25th. I want to be very, very clear when I say this. George Floyd was assassinated. Allegedly, he used a counterfeit $20 bill to buy some cigarettes, and somehow this ended up in death. Want to know how it ended up in death? 2 words: white supremacy. You know, literally, there's no excuse for him being killed in this instance in America. So since then, 3 of the 4 officers have been charged with aiding and abetting murder. The last officer, who shall be unnamed, has been convicted of second-degree manslaughter. But most recently, Shaq said that he's asking for a retrial, which is fucking crazy to think about. So a lot to unpack in this episode. I'm grateful for our guests. I want to start off with Jan, since you're in Minneapolis and you're in Minnesota, I should say. Kind of talk to us about, just give us the context about you marching and what is the current climate right now in Minnesota. As we're aware from our last episode, Daunte, Wright, may he rest in peace. That just happened in Brooklyn Park. But kind of let us know what's going on in Minnesota.
Yeah, no doubt. So the energy the last month in Minneapolis has been draining. It's just literally felt like we've been living in a war zone. And it's kind of felt like that since George Floyd has died. You know, I was supposed to go into the office, but I was told that I had to work at a different office because downtown Minneapolis was so militarized. I'm talking like tanks, I'm talking about militia, I'm talking about AK-47s. Like, it just kind of like, there was an anxiety amongst the city, if that makes sense. And then when Daunte Wright was killed, they kind of pushed it out to the suburbs. So Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, you see all these businesses boarded up, and it just almost puts you like in a time capsule of like being back in the 60s. And it's like, holy shit, you know, like it just felt like there was an attack on my Black life, if that makes sense. So things have been really tense. I've been intentionally staying away from social media because of it, as if my job isn't already draining enough. But yeah, it's been real tense. Things are lightening up a little bit. You know, it's 60 degrees outside. We're getting some warm weather.
Minnesota.
Right. That's a lot. Okay. So we'll take it, you know, but yeah, it's been pretty heavy.
Really quick, I want to highlight some before we was prepping with the show. Shaq said you've been marching and protesting so much that you lost the bottom nail for one of your.
Yeah, I lost my big toe, no cap.
Not the whole toe. Just the nail, right?
Like,
just the nail.
Okay.
The nail came
I was about to say, where your toe?
Right, where your toe? You lost your toenail. Trying to get that in there.
Man, it grew back though, just for the record. I got my full pedicure.
Got to get you a new toenail. Paint the visual of what it's looked like since it's been almost a year. Like, for the people who are in LA, a lot of times I hear when I say that I'm from Minnesota, people are like, oh no, it's a war zone, it's this and it's that. can you kind of talk to him about the officers or the National Guard who's been sit there from Governor Walz himself to to target us as a people for marching?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I necessarily understand your question, but to answer the first part, essentially, you can still see the destruction of the city. You drive in South Minneapolis and you can see that there's still buildings that are burnt up. You can see that it has truly taken a toll on the city, if that makes sense. And it's hard to, it's kind of hard to like exist in this space because I grew up in South Minneapolis. And so Lake Street is just not what it used to be. It's not as vibrant as it used to be. It's not as cultured as it used to be. Don't get me wrong, niggas is still outside. But in the same breath, you can see the devastation and the trauma on the buildings. You know, you can see the graffiti. There's still places that are boarded up. There's still places that haven't been opened. And that's been really difficult to just like see a city that you love so much just be in shambles, if that makes sense.
That in DC as well.
Yeah.
Speak more on that, Queasy. Speak more on that.
I was back home during like the original George Floyd protests when it started turning into a whole war zone. Right after Minneapolis went down, DC started going down. Like less than 24 hours after you guys started going in flames, it was crazy. And it started off peaceful and the police just appeared. And every time, because I have a homie who's been on the front line since the very beginning of all this. He's been maced, he's been locked up, he currently has a personal vendetta with the chief of police of DC, like knows him on first name basis, and like they have a war going on between them two. Like it's crazy right now. And DC's still boarded up. It's still messed up. We changed Martin Luther King Plaza, which was originally Freedom Plaza, to Black Lives Matter Plaza. Nobody asked for that. We didn't ask for that. You feel me? They just, the government forced it upon us. So even then, we were like, all right, you gave us a place that we could call our own. Every time people go there to gather, to protest peacefully, the police show up every time and show violence every time. But during the Capitol, literally during the Capitol, they were nowhere to be found.
Silent. So to go into that, Queasy, I know that you are a young Black man who grew up in DC and you now live in LA. Tell us briefly what your experience has been like overall with the police.
See, growing up, I was told like the common Black norm, the police are bad. And me growing up in the different places I've been blessed to grow up in, because I've grown up in the hood, but I've also lived in the suburbs as well. So like I had the best of both worlds. And for me to go from the hood to the suburbs, the police treat you different when you're supposed to belong in the suburbs, which is messed up. It's really messed up. But at the end of the day, the police is just a big militarized gang to me. In my eyes, how I've seen them move and how I've seen things go down and act in my life, I know. But the things I know is they're militarized. Like they're a gang. They're the third scariest gang in this planet is the police. And in LA, I've never heard of any of this shit back home. But in LA, they said the sheriff's department got their own gang.
One more time, man. I wanted to know about the internal investigation from Los Angeles Police Department.
All right. So the LA County, it's not the police, it's the sheriff's department.
Okay.
The sheriff's department has an internal investigation on them right now because there is allegedly a gang within the units, within the department. They all have matching tattoos and they run drugs and they plot on killing Black people because they're a white supremacist. So it's a form of DMI, which I had to do some personal investigation. DMI is Dead Man Incorporated, a white prison gang that started in LA and stuff, but now it's like national. So a lot of cops have families that were in that gang. So now cops are in that gang too. And now they're just running it within the sheriffs. So now it's been caught up because now they're like a bunch of people have spoke out about it, and there's like evidence on it. They've arrested like 5 officers on it.
Oh wow.
This is crazy. That's the first time
Right,
I've
it's
ever
getting
heard of this.
juicy. Wait a minute.
Yeah, that's the first time I
So
ever heard
the
about
crazy
this.
thing is, when they were announcing all this stuff was during the riots. So it was caught up in the mix. They swept it all, the clean sweep.
As they do.
And I see the correlation between this group you're talking about, DMI, along with, of course, the KKK, and obviously the officers. I think the police, like you said, is the largest gang here, but I also say like they're the new KKK. Like a lot of people who were in the Klan have ties to the police departments today and the sheriff's county today. So that's just.
Oh yeah, one thing I've realized is gang ties, whether it be white gangs or black gangs, have no limit. There's Crips who are lawyers. There's a Crip on the Supreme Court.
Now, how do you know that information? I'm just kidding. You don't have to.
Hold on. Look. We love Queasy. We got to keep it protected.
But just to segue you guys, because we can only record a Zoom meeting for 40 minutes, just moving on here. The question for this episode is, do you think the police should be abolished and why? So I'll start with you, Jan. How do you feel? What do you think about that?
Oh man, I think about this question often. I think one or two things need to happen. I think that we either need to abolish the police because other societies have shown that you can have a fruitful and safe environment without the police, or I think that we need to do more of what we've done with Derek Chauvin and hold the police accountable. And I think that George Floyd's death it's unfortunate that he lost his life, but a blessing has come for this because somebody's going to do jail time because of it. And so I think that if we can find a way to hold police more accountable and stop sweeping shit under the rug, it will create for a better society. I think that that's why you have the woman who shot Daunte Wright, why she quit off bat, because she's like, oh, I know what's about to happen to me.
That her pension, she's trying to save that money.
Yeah, that too. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's a difficult question to answer because I see both sides of it. I think that the police can be helpful if they weren't corrupt, but they're so corrupt that I think that it would be crucial. It would be beneficial for them to be abolished and for us to start over and find a way for us to police in a way that makes people feel safe. If that makes sense.
What are your thoughts, Queasy?
I feel like, so I wouldn't say defund the police. Well, I would say defund the police, but I would say completely get rid of them because again, there's normal civilians who rely on the police, and those are also jobs that, you know what I'm saying, people need. I feel like we should nerf the police. And what I mean by nerfing the police is take away their easy access to guns. Since we're talking about gun control, let this be a clear sign that we need more gun control. And let's start by controlling the police. More in the past 3 or 4 years, mainly gun violence, like high profile gun violence, has been through the police. Majority of the violence is through police. And it's crazy because a white kid could go shoot up a school and go get taken in with some Burger King. But a man who allegedly used a counterfeit $20 bill, or a kid who's just running through his neighborhood, have to die off rip.
So Queasy, you're saying you don't think it should be basically it should be gun control with the police. So we can still have police authority, but we just need the police them.
Yes, we need to put the police like how London was on. How many cops in London walk around with a gun?
Yeah.
So basically, you two agree they need to be policed. Abolishment could work, but the more realistic, maybe quicker solution is to police the police.
My thing is though, I feel like we say that a lot, right? But it's like, what does that look like? And I know no one has the answers, right? But like, or maybe Jan has something, but it's just like, what does that look like?
Well, I was gonna say like okay, for example, civilian complaints, right? There needs to be somebody that's taking a deeper look into civilian complaints. Derek Chauvin killed 2 people before it got to George Floyd. That could have been prevented had somebody police the police. You know what I mean? And so like you have police, like I don't, this is gonna sound so fucked up, but at the same time, you can't blame Derek Chauvin because there's a system behind him that allows him to act the way that he's acted. And so if we can find a way where we take civilian complaints seriously, or again, we have a select amount of police officers that do carry weapons, you know, I think that's what that looks like. Everybody can't have a gun. You know what I mean? Even just ordinary civilians, you know, we kill each other too. Everybody cannot have a gun, you know? And so I think it should be a specific group of people, but plus there's so many other means. You know, when I was out there protesting, they shooting us with rubber bullets. That's effective. Okay, you ever been shot with a rubber bullet, bro?
Yeah.
It'll put your eye out. Like, yeah. Put your eye out.
I don't know why I'm shaking my head. No, I haven't.
Like I've seen that shit up close, and it's like the bruising that comes from that. Being maced, I was maced. That made me stop dead in my tracks. I wasn't screaming Black Lives nothing after I got maced. You know what I mean? Like there is so many other ways to stop that. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna give it to Queasy. But yeah, I just think that we need to police the police, and we need to have people who are advocating for us and actually taking civilian complaints seriously. Everybody can't be wrong. He's had hundreds of complaints against him. Everybody can't be wrong about what this man has done, you know? So
this is something me and Shaq was debating about. This is still flowing within the conversation. We were talking about last episode, if you can be pro-Black within the police department. What's your thoughts on that? Like, can you still be pro-Black within an organization that's already corrupt and supporting systemic oppression?
I think you can. I definitely think you can. I think that you're going to get a lot of hate. You're going to get chastised by fellow people. But I went to school for criminal justice. There was one point in time where I was like, I'm going to be on the front lines because we have to be the change that we want to see. I think that you can, but us Black people who are not in law enforcement, who aren't judges and attorneys and all that, have to be open to seeing why somebody might decide to be a police officer. Not everybody wants to be a police officer just because they got bullied. You know what I mean? Some people really want to become the system so they can change the system. But I think that us Black people, regular civilians, make it difficult for those people to assume those positions. You know what I mean? So when I have a few friends that are cops, and I don't judge them, but a lot of people are like, oh, they're a coon, they're this, they're that. You know what I mean? I feel like we don't even give them a chance to incite the system in that way. You know, so
this is the part that's just tough for me. I agree with you, Jen, 100%. It's just tough because it's like if you have officers, right, who are trying to change the system, but when something happens to George Floyd or Ma'Khia Bryant, and they're called by the governor to go and to police these communities that are just fighting for justice, it's kind of like, how do you separate the two? It's like, I'm an officer, but I'm fighting for our system to be better. Yet I'm still on the front lines and I'm watching and allowing my counterparts to mace a crowd. It's just kind of like, how do you split the two up, you know?
Right, absolutely. And I walk that thin line every single day. It's difficult. I think for me, and again, I'm not a police officer, so I don't know, but even me just being a government employee, I let them know what it is. You know, it's just like, you want me to lead this discussion on race, and I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? Like just letting them know up front, hey, this isn't what it is. I'm not going to stand at this protest. I'm not going to police these people who are protesting. Take me off that list. Have your white counterparts. I think it really comes to, you know, there's a thin line that you have to walk, but essentially remembering that you're not only a police officer, but you're a Black man too. And voicing like, hey, I understand that I'm you know, working in this role, but at the same time, I'm still a human being and I cannot do this. And if you want to fire me for that, so be that. I think that's what I would like to see. Black police officers who are infiltrating the system and wanting to invoke change, and when they aren't being heard, then turning in their badge because they aren't being respected. Does that make sense? Is that coming across clear?
Yeah, it do. It definitely do. It's like stand for something.
Right.
What are your thoughts, Queasy?
So there's this big thing that's been going around where it's like Blue Lives Matter. It's in a sense a frat mentality when it comes to being a cop. You know, when you join your frat or your sorority and you rep it to the hardest because that's what you wanted to be, a lot of people forget that like there's something other than that. And that's what being a cop and being Black is for a lot of people that I've seen, is they choose the blue over the black.
Mm.
And they say my uniform and my skin is blue because I stand with my brothers. And like, there's been like 10 black cops I've seen on Facebook that were like, I stand with my brother in blue with Derek Chauvin. And I'm like, but you're black. You feel, and these are black officers. Like, they not mixed or none of that. They are 100% straight Uncle Ruckus.
Yeah.
And it's
and
like
hard because there's the term good cop, bad cop, and then with any group of people, there's going to be people who make them look bad, and I think that's where it comes into play with the police too.
I've met some cool cops. Like, I've met some cool cops. I'm not saying all cops are bad. Like, they all suck. Like, it's been a couple times I should have went to jail because a cop looked out for me. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't take that ride. So again, I'm not saying like all cops who are black are like pro the badge, because like she said, there are some that want to change the system and that do it their own way. But in a majority sense and how they work as a group, I'm gonna do what they do to us. And I'm gonna judge them by the general instead of I know individually, because we're general to them. It's not we're Floyd or we're Breonna Taylor. We're just some black people. So to me, they some cops.
And then I understand also what Queasy's saying and the fact that they generalize, so why shouldn't we? However, what I will say is us doing the same is not going to get us anywhere. So I want to try to be more open-minded and believe that there are black cops that are taking the time to stand up for what's right and are refusing certain roles and are standing up for us. I want to believe, I want to see the good in people still.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to piggyback off of that, I think that we also have to remember that our cops that are friends, they have families to feed. They went to school and spent $70,000 on this degree. It's not like they can just up and walk away and be like, all right, fuck this job, I quit. Like, I understand why some people do that, but at the same time, capitalism is also beating our ass at the same time too. And so we have to take that into consideration.
I definitely agree with all of y'all, but I do think we should abolish the police. I think the sheriffs, the police, all of them, they should be gone. And I don't mean it living in a world that's corrupt, like the purge or some shit like that. But I just mean like it's hard to reform a broken system, that continues to have basically the same ideology. Even if a few people, even if there are a few good apples, the whole entire thing is it's corrupt at its core. So, but since we're wrapping up on time, I just want to ask y'all, like, it's no one solution to any of this, but maybe y'all can kind of share, like, maybe Jan, we can go with you and share some of the things that people can do to advocate for our rights. Or maybe share some of the things that y'all do for self-care that our listeners can follow.
Yeah, no doubt. I think for me, a solution has been not living in fear, but also realizing that it may be difficult to see that change. It may be difficult to see the change, but we always have to know that change is happening. I had a discussion with a friend the other day and he was like, I don't see no change. I don't see no change. But for me, it's like, I see black judges all the time. You know what I mean? So I know that change is happening and we have to hold true to that. Change happens in small increments. And we have to think, we're talking about a system that has been established for 400 years. Like Amanda Seales said, it's going to take that same 400 years to demolish it. You know what I mean? Unless we say, fuck the system and burn this bitch down, which is an option. But I think that—
Let's burn it, Jan, let's burn it.
Listen, when they burned that precinct, I was like, yo, I'm not mad at this. But we just have to know that no matter what we see in 3D, we have to know that change is happening. No matter if we look at a cop and say, oh, they're a coon, that is pivotal for some little black kid to be like, you know what, I might want to do that too. This is how I want to change the system. We got to stop being so judgmental about how we go about changing the system and just appreciate what people are doing if they're doing anything, and then also too, like taking a break. I told Shakira before the show, I was like, I don't know if I want to talk about this because I've been living my best life not thinking about it, and that's why I say don't live in fear.
We didn't bring you back. It's my fault. I apologize.
No, it's all good. It needs to be talked about. But that's why I say, like, Assata Shakur always says, don't let them kill your unborn. And it's easy for me to get in a car and fear for my life. But at the same time, like, I'm safe, I'm protected. And I have to remember that at all aspects. If A police pulls me over, yes, there's gonna be anxiety, but until then, like, just know that I'm safe and protected and I'm loved. You know what I mean? So I think living that with that mentality and living as trauma-free as possible is a solution.
That. Queasy.
For me, to tell everybody, my best advice is know your rights. Know the law. Because if you know your rights and you know the law, then when you realize something unjust is being done to you, don't react with aggression. React with a calm head and understand that you will get out your situation if you take 2 more seconds to think.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
But there's a better
Even
way to get out of it.
and even if you find yourself in the situation to whereas you are being physically assaulted by police, defend yourself within legal right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because if you are not doing anything wrong and there's nothing illegal going on with you and you are being assaulted by a police officer, as long as it's on camera or you're somewhere in a public area where it's on camera, it can be fought in court as self-defense.
Period, Pooh.
I definitely agree with that. And you know, to piggyback off of that, I think that shows in the George Floyd case. You know what I mean? It definitely shows in the George Floyd case. I think it's easy for us to have that angst and resentment towards the police, but if we can remain calm and if we can beg for our life in a calm way and somebody does wrong, just the truth comes to the light without a doubt. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's just, it's so tough. It's just like, because I just watched the video, unfortunately, with George Floyd. I just watched that right before we did this. I was just doing research and I just wanted to.
That made my heart hurt. That's not. Ooh, okay.
No, I didn't just watch just the video of that. I watched the video of a breakdown of the evidence and some of everything in there. So the point I was bringing up in that is tough because like you got the young girl, I think she was 16 years old, that was recording, right? Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's like George Floyd saying, you know, I can't breathe. He said it like 15, 16 times. Now, if somebody else would have like hit the officer or pulled the officer's gun, and I'm not even saying that like any of this is right, but it's just hard to like legally be like, yo, these are my rights.
Defend your brother.
Defend yourself. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Defend your brother.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough because it's like, had you defend him, then it's like now you're at fault too. Like legally, if you would have said these are my rights, So it's just keeping the balance.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I think that, you know, slow and steady wins the race. Like Jan said, there are changes being done. And it's really hard to even say abolish the police because the entire world we live in is systemic oppression. Like that's like saying abolish the school system because we got the prison to school pipeline. Like there's so many things that's another episode. Yeah, but there's so many things.
I'm with it.
Mm-hmm.
Where
school
the kids go while we abolish it. Somebody got to watch the kids. But no, all jokes aside, I think that there's layers to it. So hopefully we can keep making those small steps. And like Jan and Queasy both said, defend your brother, defend your sister. Even if that does mean just pulling out your phone and having that evidence, that still is some sort of defense in situations like this. Because if it wasn't for that 16-year-old girl, Chauvin would be still on the streets.
Mm-hmm. Done, man. Done. Before we conclude this episode, Queasy, Jen, is there any last thing you both would like to say?
I'm not really on social media in this season, but y'all can follow me at Jandelta_Ray. That's JANDELTHA_RAE on Instagram and Twitter. And I also just want to add in too quick that, you know, self-care is a radical act. And so if you need to unplug, if you need to get off social media, if you need to stop scrolling, do that, because this right here is the most important thing. So self-care, self-loving and self-caring is also too a radical act.
Thank you, John. Queasy.
Y'all can find me in my music. You can find me at Young Queasy.
Oh no, he tried it. All right, we're gonna get it. Queasy, they got it. We're gonna get them. God is good. I don't know. Sometimes I personally want to thank y'all both, man. I learned a lot. And this is a heavy topic, but it was so much fun having this conversation with y'all for sure, man. Hopefully next week when me and Shaq record, we can debate about something. Her forehead is shining. I didn't say nothing about it.
And yours is fried, nigga. So crazy. Maybe we rub them together, your shit will be french fries. But yeah, no, all jokes aside, thank you both for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you all for watching. And also, the main topic here is, should we abolish the police? So when this does post, when we post it, please comment below and let us know if you think that that's something that should be done. And of course, follow us. I am Shakira 2 times. You can follow me on everything under that name. LinkedIn, if you got a job for me, Shakira Edwards.
Yeah, he's got a job, all right. Look, Dejan _McCain, everything, man. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see y'all next week.